So we all started together. When did you start? What year?
I started in 1975.
75. I was around 76.
Oh, I thought you were around right when I started, Mark, because you were one of the first comics I met in New York, standing in line at the
It was
club.
early 76, but maybe 75.
Could have been.
Yeah. And you?
I started in Washington, D.C. in January of 77.
But a whole different route.
Whole different route.
Whereas we came up in the comedy clubs, you were opening for
Rock
like,
bands.
acts.
Yeah.
That's how you
It's a lot of my training was
Started.
Yeah. First time was the Ramones in '78. And do you remember that book? Remember they so I opened up for Ramones. It was a brutal beatdown. I mean, it was a brutal beatdown. I wasn't up there long, and they were throwing beer at me. So we had the book I Killed, right? And the New York Times reviewed it, and then the Washington Post said they're going to review it. Then they called us back and said we can't review it because the music critic here at the Washington Post said he was at that Ramones show and there was no opening act. And I said, no, I swear I was there. Did it. And so then we had a disappointment. And then a couple months later, he calls me back, the literary editor, and said, I got to put the music critic on the line. And he wants to talk to you. He gets on, he says, I'm sorry. I apologize to you. I was talking to my wife about the fact that you had lied about the opening act. And she said, no, there was a disturbance in the front of the stage.
Right. So I knew
That's all it was, too.
That's good.
Perfect description.
Yes.
I grew up with the Ramones.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the guy, Jeff Hyman was his real name.
Yeah.
And then Bob Cummings, John Cummings was the other guy. I didn't know the third guy. And so they were 1 year ahead of me, 1 year older, and they were in a grade ahead of me, but I hung out with Jeff's brother. And so anyway, I knew these guys very well, and when they first started in rock, I would go see them. So then I went to CBGB's one night, they were playing. And I said, I want to go back and say hello to them. And they made believe they had no idea who I was. All of them. I said, we went to school together.
Really?
They just stared at me like I was completely out of my mind. I knew you guys know because I was there. And it just, and
That's reinventing yourself.
they never broke from it. They never broke, and I just left. And the hell with these guys, you know.
Yeah. So then I came up. I met you guys in Garvin's Open, and you guys came. Everybody's coming down through Garvin's, and I was
the first
house
comedy
MC.
club in Washington.
That's right. It was the first paying club on the East Coast, really.
Well, there's Philadelphia open, and then Washington after that.
No. 79, January 79, before the Philly clubs are open.
No, but we had Grandma Minnie's in Philly.
But was that paying you guys?
Yes.
But it wasn't dedicated comedy club. It was music, because I went up there and did nights there.
There was some music,
Yeah,
I guess, but
And folks singing, and I saw Ritch Hall
Yeah.
there, and
Yeah,
you
but
guys
it
came
was
out.
fun.
They brought some people down, I know that.
well, Mark and I, it was
you guys
a
do?
guy, Carl Waxman, who was booking
Carl
it,
Waxman?
I remember Carl Wax.
and he said, "I'm booking this new room in Philadelphia," and it paid, and nothing in New York paid. So,
Right.
so Mark and I get in Mark's car, because Mark had a car. We drive to Philadelphia, and we get there, 3-hour drive, whatever it was from New
Yeah,
York.
an hour and 110 miles.
And Carl says, I can't catch on tonight. Come back next week. We just drove from New York to Philadelphia.
I thought he hired you for a paying gig.
No, it
No,
wasn't
no,
paying
to
gig.
audition.
This was to
Yeah, yeah,
audition
she-
for the gig.
They weren't.
And then we drove back the next week and actually auditioned.
And did it.
And I got work out of it. I would get $50 a night. I get $150 for the weekend for Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Wow.
And at that point, my rent was $135, and so this was like the greatest
Yeah.
thing.
Wow.
in
What
the
year was
world.
that, you think?
That was 77, I think.
Steve
I
Stars.
remember that place.
Yeah.
Was it Steve Stars on it?
Yeah, Steve Stars.
No, Steve Stars opened the rival club, called Stars.
Okay.
Oh, right, okay.
Which opened a little bit later, maybe 78 or 79.
My friends and I didn't do stand-up there, but we went in there like 76 or 77.
Okay.
And we did the stuff we did in college together, right? And then they said, great, you're great, come back next week. You won like whatever the night was, right? So we go, we gotta come back next week. It was my friend and I, Cam and I. But we don't have any more material. But he had this one bit he did where he played accordion, and we had a dwarf friend of ours in college, and he would dress up like a monkey. And in college, it was a very funny bit, right? And he'd come out and he'd do a chi-chi, and he'd do his dancing and going around, and then eventually he'd hump somebody's leg, right? Well, he got so drunk that night that as soon as Cam came out, Chi-Chi comes flying out, no foreplay, and goes latches on a woman's leg in the front row. And all of a sudden there's a fight. Her boyfriend's beating him off, trying to beat him. He was drunk, and he just latched onto her leg, man. And they threw us out. They literally threw us out. Don't come back. And so I didn't do stand-up again for a year. I mean, I didn't try stand-up. I tried, that was, that was
He
it.
told me a Gilbert Gottfried story that I really didn't know that story.
Oh, what?
Mike Dugan told me this and swore that Belzer told him this.
Okay.
That Gilbert Gottfried, this is what he passed him, how he passed as an act at Catch.
Yes.
You know the
Which is
story?
a huge deal. No.
So he gets his number in the daytime, and he shows up to get his number, and he acts as if he has cerebral palsy. He can't talk properly. He's doing the whole thing. So that night he comes back for the show, and he's at the bar, and he's doing the cerebral palsy act. And people are coming up to Belzer going, are you going to put that guy on? You can't put that guy on. Belzer goes, he's got a number. He's got a number, I got to put him on. So his time comes, Belzer brings him up for his 5 minutes. He does jokes with cerebral palsy. And the audience is just, you know what they're thinking. They're like, we can't laugh because they'll think we're laughing at him.
Yeah.
They're just, stunned, that's silence. He gets a light, and then he drops it. And he just goes, thank you very much. You've been a nice audience. I appreciate this. And walks off the radio voice, and Belzer just lost it. He goes, he got us all. So Gilbert comes off, Belzer just grabs, he goes, you're in, come back tomorrow night, you're in.
Wow.
And
I
that's
never
how he
heard that.
passed. It was like Kaiser Sose from
Yeah.
Usual Suspects.
So when you started at the Improv, who was running the place?
Oh, Bud was still there. He had not moved to
So
California
he
yet.
moved he was gone when I got there.
Oh, he was, Mark. Okay, but it was just before he came. I mean, I think the first time I auditioned, he was there, and I was in that little bathroom in the hallway.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And he bangs on the thing. Showtime, showtime. It scared me.
But who took over for him?
Chris Albrecht. ran
So
the
it
club.
wasn't Silver.
No, I mean Silver was still there, and she would come in, but it was Chris Albrecht that
And Howie Klein.
managed it. Oh,
And
Howie
his
Klein.
assistant was assistant manager. When I got there in '79, they were.
Yes, but Howie Klein was he a drummer or a doorman or
He was
was a
drummer
drummer for a
sometimes,
while,
Drummer.
but
Yeah,
he was
that's-
also,
that's right.
when I got there, he was the assistant
Yeah,
manager.
he moved up.
Because you know how you're like waiting to get a spot.
Oh.
And I would sit out there and they said you can hang out. And I'd sit there at 8 o'clock when somebody might not show the first spot. And one Friday night, I was sitting there at the first show, and Gilbert had that he had like the 4th spot, and then the 5th spot behind Gilbert, nobody wanted to do. There was 3 spots, singer, then Gilbert always had that 4th spot, then the 5th spot was following Gilbert.
Okay.
So I looked at the list, and it was supposed to be Richie Gold. So I was sitting out in the bar, I'm sitting waiting, and I see them looking down. There's nobody, no comics down with me. They're looking down. Gilbert's on stage. They see him calling over to Catch. I know they're calling up the comedy strip.
Yeah.
Who's over? Send somebody over quick.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
finally, they're looking at the clock, and they come down. They go, "Can you hold him? Can you go up and hold him?" And I held him, and then I was in. And then I started getting paying spots.
What's the difference?
Yeah.
So Gilbert and I used to go over when they passed us, but we never got on. At Catch.
And Catch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we go to the Improv. We wouldn't get on there, but we showed up, and then we walked together to catch Rising Star. We walked
He'd
across,
save
took
the
an
money.
hour.
Yeah, Gilbert would save the money.
Yeah, but we had nothing to do. If we
Yeah.
got to catch at 10:30, we weren't going to get on it at all until 1 o'clock. So we would walk every night. And one Saturday night, I'm talking to Gilbert on the phone. I said, "Let's go in. Maybe somebody will cancel, and you just stand around." So we're standing there, and Belzer and Rick are behind the little rope there, and Belzer goes, and we're standing right in front of him. And Belzer says to Rick, "We don't have the next act. What do you want to do?" And Rick goes, "I don't know. What do you think?" And they look at us and they go, "Yeah, we don't have anybody." That's exactly what he said. He said, so Rick goes, "Call the Improv.
Yeah.
See if you can get Barry Diamond to come over."
Yeah.
And they called the Improv, and Barry said, "I'll be over in 40 minutes." And Belzer went on and stalled
For 40
minutes.
Rather than put you on.
Right.
Yeah.
But when he said, they looked at us and go, "We don't have anybody."
Oh, that's hurtful, man. That's really brutal.
How bad were we?
Yeah.
We were
listen,
invisible,
that-
Mark. We were invisible
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
we started out. Same thing
Yeah.
happened to me. I was with Jeff Chern, Bob Shaw was emceeing, and we're standing as close as you and I are to the podium. He picks up the phone, calls down the Improv and says, "We've got no acts. Send anyone up. They didn't ask for Barry Knight, just anyone. And so hangs up, and Jack Raymond shows up in a cab, 20 minutes
Jack
later,
Raymond.
and then they put him on, and we didn't get on that night.
Oh,
So, we had that thing, you may not know, we did the Alan Dick's
Oh.
Steakhouse on 54th Street.
Yeah.
And there was a woman there who was
Never
the food lady and manager, Manya.
Yeah.
Remember Manya?
Yep.
She was from Poland or something. She had some sort of
But
weird
very
accent.
sweet to me.
Very sweet. So one night I'm up there and I see Jimmy's eating a chef salad. So I said, Manya, let me get one of those. She goes, no. So I said, well, he's eating one. And she looks at me and she goes, well, he's funny and you're not.
And this was the waitress. This was the waitress.
Get the salad.
Yeah. So, but that got me through those, that free
Yeah.
salad there. Whew. It's great.
And then we took a class together at, what's his name?
Oh, Phil Foster.
Phil Foster's class.
Oh, this was from Alan Dick's too. Well,
But it was at the Golden Lion Pub where he taught the class, upstairs.
No, it was upstairs at
Alan Dick's, was it up there?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I performed one night at Alan Dick's, and Phil Foster, who was the father on Laverne and Shirley, eventually at that
Yeah,
point.
yeah,
And
he
a
wasn't,
comedian for many
but
years.
he had been on Ed Sullivan, and a big time comedian. He takes me aside and said, "You really need help, and I'm going to give you a free class every Tuesday." And he started giving us a free class about
Yeah.
Alan Dick's every Tuesday to teach us.
It was
comedy.
very nice.
Oh wow, that was nice of him.
And then he got Laverne and Shirley, and
End of help.
and well, he was in California,
Yeah.
and so I got a TV series on the Paramount lot,
Yeah.
and I went down to watch him rehearse one day.
And he remembers you?
Oh, yeah, and he would come and watch. He watched me rehearse and said, "Oh, they're not giving you the right material." He would complain about the right. So I went down to Laverne and Shirley, watched him rehearse one day, and he had a bit where he came in his old military uniform because he was going to a parade or something, and say, "See, it still fits," and it was. And I said, "Oh, it'd be so much funnier if it were really tight and you were bulging out of it, and you're the only one that thinks it still fits. You walk in and see it still fits."
Yeah.
So he goes to wardrobe between the dress rehearsal and their shooting, and has it taken in, and walks out there and says, "See, it still fits." And of course, big laugh, and of course the cast laughed too. They hadn't seen what he
Wow.
was doing, and
That's great.
so I was able to say thank you. With
That's very
giving
nice,
him a
man.
joke.
Very nice, yeah.
Yeah, he was a big believer in working clean.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he would let us do some material for him, and I had one that ended with giving the finger. And he reamed me so bad. It's filth,
Yeah.
just
I remember this part. I thought it was the
smoke ring?
smoke ring joke. It wasn't that?
Maybe.
The
but
smoke ring joke?
You know the smoke ring
I had a
joke?
smoke, so I used to smoke on stage. In those days we could smoke, on stage.
And the audience smoked too. It's not
Everybody
just-
Everybody's smoking.
And we'd be up there and 200 people would be blowing smoke right in our face.
Horrible. Yeah.
Never thought twice
And we
about
all had
it.
jokes about it though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little more. I want to die next week, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm back in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Yeah, next to me in
Hey,
London.
sir, can you give me one of your cigarettes? I left mine in the machine.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. You.
So I
I
had this joke where I took a cigarette and I was really good at blowing smoke rings. And it would get out about, maybe 3-4 feet, and I used to fuck those as a kid.
And that's where I remember Phil Foster losing.
That's what he did that
And
one.
then I
That's
go,
where he yelled.
That's it.
then I had a tag to it, and I would say, I would do it now, but I don't want to hit you in the head from here.
Yeah, I remember that
Yeah,
joke
so,
now.
yeah.
That would hit you in the head from your joke.
Yeah.
I remember.
So Phil Foster just completely lost
Yeah,
it.
I remember that joke now. Well, one of the ones I remember is, let's everybody get up and run out of here and not pay.
Yeah, that was.
Come on, they can't catch us all. And we'll go to another club, we'll do it there too.
We'll go somewhere else, we'll have dinner, we'll run out of there, and we'll do this for about a week and a half, and then we'll
Yeah.
get back, come back, nobody will recognize us. Yeah.
Now, you do remember, you weren't there when he got the Buster Brown thing? He got
No.
cast to be the new Buster Brown?
Mark?
Yeah, Mark did. It'd be a
No.
whole commercial campaign for Buster Brown shoes.
No.
So he comes in the club and he's got the Buster Brown outfit on from like 1905. He's got the shorts with the high socks and the buckle shoes and his dog, right? And he's got a lot of material and he goes on stage and everybody's doing, this is like 1980 or 81, whatever, everybody's doing a material. And he goes up there with like, this is my dog. It was the most bizarre scene, man.
So
But you were game, man.
I tried,
Because they were
but
going to pay you real money.
they were paying me, we had a
Like
contract.
$2,500?
No, it was $10,000 contract.
At the time,
Yeah.
It was
when we were getting paid at all.
No, $10,000. I was like,
So this was a pay or play contract. which is whether you do the shows, or if they fire you, whatever,
Yeah.
you still get the money.
Yeah.
So, my first show, they go, this isn't working. It was at a mall somewhere, and there was, and the thing with the
And what were
dog.
we supposed to do? Stand up? As
They
Buster
ended up-
You
Rhymes?
want to be funny, right?
Yeah,
You
there's
wanna-
something we tried to work out some bits with the dog and stuff, which is,
I remember we were all standing in the back trying to figure
I
out
know.
jokes for this thing, but it was.
so they fired me.
Oh.
So I said, well, okay, so send me the check. They go,
Uh-huh.
well, it didn't work out. They didn't want to pay me.
Oh.
So I went to the comic strip, and Bob Wax is a lawyer.
Who was one of the owners of Comic Strip.
Yeah, one of the owners of comic strips. I said, Bob, I was doing this thing, and he knew I was doing it.
Yeah.
And I said, they owe me the money. He says, let me see the contract. I showed
Uh-huh.
it to him. He says, I'll call them. We'll get you the money. So the next day, I get a phone call from the ad agency that booked this. The guy goes, we have your check. Come over right now. So I go over. They give me the check, and he says, do me a favor though. Tell that guy to never call us again. He said that if they don't pay me, he was going to kill them.
No.
Yeah, that's what they said.
He was
They
the
said-
quietest, most.
It's a
He said-
lawyer. It's a lawyer.
He said they threatened to kill us if we don't give you the check. So I went in that night to the comic strip. I went in the comic strip, and Bob sees me coming in and goes, you got the money? I said, yeah, I did. He goes, I thought you would. And then I offered him some. I said, can I give you, and he turned it down and stuff like that. But that was,
That's hilarious.
Wow.
Threatened to
I
kill
said, get rid of this guy. We don't
Yeah,
want to
you
hear
think,
from
you
this
think he's
guy.
going to go, I this violation of statute 22.3C according to the New York Code? No, he just goes right there, we'll kill you.
Yeah.
That's my legal advice.
Yeah, right.
We'll kill him.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that was quite a payday mark for you.
Huge. Yeah, huge.
Because I remember when you were the cook at the comic strip,
And so I went-
sweating in the kitchen. There's a little kitchen there, and
Like if you put a wall from the mirror here to this is just this little section.
Yeah.
And we had the oven and
just.
What were you cooking back there?
what are the
Chicken
shrimp,
and
steaks, burgers.
The deep fried shrimp? The old deep fried shrimp?
I think I know.
Howard
actually,
Johnson clams, frozen clams. Did you have those back there?
He actually had the
Basket of
real
clams,
stuff.
clam strips.
But I would have the guys come in on Monday,
Yeah, this is.
and I would feed the acts without telling the owner. And we would have burgers, and a few of us would be there.
Chicken. I was a day bartender, so I would go and get chicken. And all of a sudden, first it was Mike Caine would come in, and so there's the three of us at dinner, and then Mike started spreading word. So there were like 27 comics one night, we all having dinner there, and Lucian, who was the manager, walked in and ended that pretty quickly.
Is that the end of your job as a cook?
I don't
Well,
know
it
how
ended
we-
the Monday dinners.
Yeah. Mike and I walked into the comic strip naked one time. You know about that? We
No, but there was a lot of naked.
Mike
people.
would be dropping naked anytime he could.
Absolutely.
Mike would be walking naked anytime he
I
could.
went with Mike in Brooklyn. Listen, we used to have this New Year's Day with
Right.
Jerry Seinfeld, Paul
Right,
Reiser.
right.
So we needed a bottle of champagne. We were out of champagne. So we're in Brooklyn, and we stop at a liquor store. It's a really bad neighborhood. And Mike and I get naked, and we go into the liquor store. And it's one of these bad neighborhoods where it's just glass. The guy is not actually there. He's like behind a bulletproof shield.
Yeah.
And he got a little slot, you put the money in, and then he puts the booze through it.
Yeah.
And we're completely naked, and he sells us the booze. Doesn't bat an eye, like, this is unusual.
Yeah.
And somebody else came in to buy something, we're just standing there naked, we'll be done in a second. And then,
You know what? He was probably happy because
We
he
didn't
couldn't
have
have any
time.
weapons on
that's
him.
right, there you go.
And there's no
We're the
coat
first
with
people
a
that
shotgun
weren't
underneath
gonna
it.
kill him.
Exactly.
That's right.
You know, Kane, when my first Christmas there in New York, said, we're going to go around, I'm going to dress as Santa Claus, you're going to be my elf. And we're going to go from bar to bar and get lots of free drinks and drugs. And that's what we did. We went from bar, every time we go to a bar, Santa Claus is here, free drinks, people slipping us drugs. And I had a little elf outfit on, it was just like a hat and then whatever else it was, elf thing. And he had a full Santa Claus
Yep,
thing.
yep.
And he says, I do this every year. I do
Wow.
Christmas as Santa Claus.
Well, he was a Santa Claus at Macy's, and there was a party
that's
at
how I
the, at
got
the
it.
comic strip. The Christmas party was one of the same days. So he leaves Macy's, comes to the comic strip. He's got an hour off for lunch or something, and then just decides to stay. So he probably just kept me out.
He just stole the outfit
Yeah, he
from
probably
Macy's.
just, that was the end.
He was a character, man.
So
He
funny.
really was a character. You know, I ever tell you that Carol and I and Mike were tripping one night. Mike and I met this guy who made real acid, Osley acid, chemist, and he was a cab driver.
Okay.
So we had a steady supply of acid. So him, Carol, and I are doing acid. Now I got to go to Washington D.C. the next night. That's like Thursday. We're up all night. Friday they take me down to the train station, Penn Station. I get on the train. I'm out of my mind. I take some niacin to try to come down, and I go down the trip, and I get down. So that night, I go on stage at Garvin's, and I'm doing my thing, and I stop for a minute, and then they're laughing. The whole audience is laughing. I go, what are they laughing at? I feel something behind me. I turn around. Mike hits me in the face with a pie.
Wow.
They followed me down,
Ah,
and then spent the
Wow.
rest of the weekend. They followed me down and surprised me on stage. I could not believe it.
it was so funny.
He was a character, man.
You know what I'm going to see next week is Maurice,
Oh.
black comedian.
Oh,
Next
yeah.
meeting we started with in New York.
He's going to come to New Jersey to see us work.
Wow.
And I was with him at Garvin's Grill. He used to do this thing. You do crazy stunts, but he had crazy glue. And he would glue coins to the table, and the waitresses would come to get the money, and they couldn't get it off. It was torture them.
Well, didn't you and Maurice buy dishwashing liquid
Yes.
and put it in the fountain,
Fountain.
like on Fifth Avenue?
Yes, we did.
And it would bubble up then and flow over and stop traffic.
Yeah, you just pour a whole thing of Joy liquid into the thing, and all of a sudden it's. You know, actually, when I first started,
You know the city of New York. So
when we
good.
couldn't get on stage, I would go on Park Avenue at night, really late at night, and they had the office building, and then they had a place where you could walk to the front door, so the whole thing. But then they had these lights that would come down at the entrance of the building, and it looked like a stage because spotlights were coming down.
okay.
I used to go there by myself and rehearse and pretend there was an audience in front of me with these spotlights on me. It was very cool, very cool.
Well, Mike, remember the time you and this is Mike Caine story. To get back to Mike Caine, I have a big lunch set up at the Plaza Hotel
Yes.
with my manager Jack Rollins and two producers from the TV show that I'm doing, Miller and Boyette, there. And so we're sitting in the dining room there at the Plaza Hotel.
In the window.
And I'm facing the window, and they're facing towards me. You know, I can see out, but they're facing into the restaurant. And Mark and Mike Caine know that I'm there for lunch, so they walk by and they're waving to me, and you know, and I'm trying to, you know,
We climbed
not
up on the little
acknowledge
thing
them.
by the window, and yeah, we saw you there.
And then they ended up mooning me. They dropped their pants, they're mooning me on Fifth Avenue, and I'm trying to keep it together with the most important meeting of my life at that point. And these
And you
guys
got
are
the show.
outside. I did, because I didn't break, but yeah.
Yeah, it didn't break his way.
And I'll tell you, you ever heard this Mike Caine story? This was before I knew him in New York. Remember when streaking was a huge thing, like in the early 70s?
73, 72.
Something, yeah. And Mike decided he was going to streak Grand Central Station during rush hour. You know, it was really crowded. He was going to run in one side, and he had a friend that dropped him off in the car and was going to pick him up on the other side, drive around, and he's going to streak through there, you know. So the guy drops him off. Mike, you know, he's completely naked. He's got naked in the car. Streaks through Grand Central Station, and people, yeah. And he gets out on the other side, and the guy in the car is stuck in traffic.
Right, of course.
So Mike is standing there on 44th Street, just naked, yeah,
timing, man,
just
timing.
waiting for the guy.
He
to
doesn't
come
have money
by.
to buy a newspaper to cover. He's just,
He doesn't have a wallet.
no, he doesn't have anything, right? He's just standing
Yeah.
there. Timing, man.
So just so funny, and just yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You ever talk to any of his relatives anymore?
No, I've lost touch, man.
The brother, the cop? Right?
Yeah, or the
Sister.
the sister we stayed with when we
That's
were
what-
visiting and stuff in New York.
I was staying at Kramer's. This is like a week or two before he died. And Kramer lent me his car, and I drove out to his sister's place. She had him in a hospital bed in the living room.
Yeah, she was a nurse.
She was a nurse, right?
Yeah,
Long Island, right?
But yeah, way out there. And
Yeah.
it was a long drive, a couple hours.
yeah.
And I sat there, and this is when he was doing that original breathing, where he's, you know, like that. And I sat there I thought I was there for 5 minutes, just wiping his brow with a white cloth and all,
Yeah,
telling him I loved him and all.
Yeah. Oh,
And I get to leave. She goes, "Wow, nobody stayed that long." What? She goes, "You were there like an hour." I go, "No, I wasn't there an hour." She goes, "Yeah, you were there." I go, I don't have think I was just here 5. You know what I mean? It just
Yeah,
it was
no,
a weird time thing. I was sitting there with him, and I think there was somebody who part of me didn't want to leave him, you know, because I felt he was going to die any minute or something, you know.
Wow.
And his eyes were there, and he's just looking at me, and he could not.
Oh.
It was like.
So here's the Mike story. My father has cancer. He's at Lenox Hill. No, he's at New York Hospital. And I would go. My father had a short time to live, and I would go up to see my dad in the hospital there. And Mike would come with me sometimes, you know, and he'd sit there with me, and we'd talk to my dad and stuff. So I said to my dad, "Listen, we're gonna go to Mike and I are going to dinner. I'll be back after dinner. Mike's gonna go home." So Mike had a philosophical side to him. You know, he's a great guy. So we get outside, and Mike says, "You know, sorry about your dad, but you know, anything can happen to any of us." You know, he goes, "You know, I can walk out and get hit by a truck today. Anything can happen." You know, we go have dinner. I say goodbye to Mike. I go back to the hospital. I'm sitting with my dad. A nurse runs in and goes, "Mark Schiff?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Your friend Mike Kane is in the emergency room." I said, "What happened?" "He was hit by a truck."
Oh.
Unbelievable. He's standing on the corner to cross. There's a truck. It's a one-way, like, down. Truck's going to go this way, but it's parked. The guy starts the truck, backs up,
And hits him.
hits him, and rolls over him, but doesn't. The wheels don't go over him. He's under the truck, but it hit him hard, knocked him down. Mike's completely cut up. I go down the emergency room. He's in a wheelchair, sitting like this. He goes, "I told you you could be a."
Oh, that's a little story.
Yeah, I believe him. And that's when they found out he was sick.
Is that how they found out?
We had to do all the blood stuff, and you know, it started. But he was so cut up, and he goes, "Never know when you're gonna hit by a truck."
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
And that went up to my father. Couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe it.
Wow.
So, but that was never forget that story, Mike.
Well, he was an amazing guy that just was like the mayor of New York. Just he would know doormen on the way up Fifth Avenue from.
Didn't he have those poker games? He played these high-end poker games.
Do you remember when that congressman was murdered, and we went to? They had a little event for him, like a memorial. Who's the guy? They walked in, they shot him in his office.
Oh, Al Lowenstein.
Al Lowenstein.
Oh.
You must remember this. You were there, and Mike was there.
Yes. I mean, I
So Jimmy,
worked for him 2.5 years.
you worked for. So you were invited, and you said to Mike and me, "Why don't you come with me? We got a free dinner. Everything's a free dinner, you know." So I show up. Do you remember how I was dressed?
Mark was in a dress.
I showed up dressed as a woman. I got the lipstick. I got a dress on, and
And I don't think I realized it because you got in a cab, and you were on the other side of the cab, and I don't think I realized it until you got out of the cab. Then.
so we go in, and I'm with Jimmy, and I'm dressed as a woman in drag at
the
this
guy's
memorial.
At the guy's memorial. Very respectful. We had him our mind.
Crazy times.
And nothing came of it. Nobody really realized. But then I left, and it was, but I just thought it would be a great thing to.
To do.
Yeah.
But Al Lowenstein.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what got me to New York, which got me into comedy. I went to do volunteer work for this guy running for Congress, Al Lowenstein, and
What year was that? Was it?
that was '72. I'd been just thrown out of Notre Dame, and I didn't know what I was going to do, so I went and did volunteer work for a month. He lost the election, and then it was so rigged because of the party bosses in Brooklyn and stuff that he took it to court, won in court. They had another election in August. Special election. He lost again. So, and then he decided, based on that he would run for the Senate.
Lose my way to the top.
Yeah. So he lost for the House, and then ran for the Senate. Of course, lost that, and then ran for the House again in a different district on Long Island. And I worked for him for all those.
Wow.
You don't want to quit on a guy who doesn't want to move like that.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, the guy's absolutely setting a record for the most elections. And keep like, you know, absolutely.
But I would go to the comedy clubs at night and watch comedy, and that's, you know, trying to get up the nerve to try
Right.
it. Wow. So that got me into a place that had comedy. Had I been in Cleveland or South Bend or something, there was no comedy there.
Nowhere to go.
Yeah.
No.
So.
No.
So I gotta get ready. I gotta take Mr. Leno off
All right.
in a few minutes.
All right.
Right?
Yep.
I think
All right,
so.
guys.
Yep.
Good seeing you, Jimmy.
Good to see you, Rich. Yeah, nice to see you.
See you, Mr. Mark.
Yeah. So we've all been doing comedy almost 50 years each.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
150 years of stand-up comedy here.
And nearly that many laughs.
Yes.
And I was telling Rich, you know, we're some of the few, I'm telling you, that from our generation who didn't become giant stars at all, that are actually still doing this.
Yeah.
Because most of the guys weren't able to even eke out a living.
No,
That's
no,
right. Yeah,
no.
yeah.
We know that.
Once
So
that
that-
boom in the '80s dried up, it was hard
Yeah.
for a
And you
while.
remember back in our day, you had to be all in to get stage time. It's not like today where they can find stage time in any small town, any bar, or
No, that's just it.
you had to be all in.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that dentist that hung around Catch a Rising Star? There's this dentist that hung around there, right? You
Yeah.
remember that? And he constantly go like, and I remember going, he'd go up to Belzer, come on, Rich, put me on.
Oh, I
you know?
do remember.
And Belzer goes, 1 in the morning. I can't stay that long. Belzer goes, that's your spot. That's your spot, 1 in the morning. You know, it's like saying, if you can't hang out, these guys are all gonna hang out.
Yeah.
Like the ones that are here, they're gonna hang out. Then they'll get the stage time. I'm not
Yes,
giving you
yes.
10:30 so you can go home and go do the dentist in the morning. These guys are in. They're all in.
We were there till
So how did you
till 4 in the morning.
Right?
And we would stay
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
till-
You stayed till
How'd you
right.
support yourself?
What?
How'd you support
You
yourself?
won't believe my last job. So I was down in the East Village, near where Gilbert lived, in the East Village, and I was late for rent. And the guy goes, "Look, and my building had just been rehabbed. Right? Remember they were selling buildings for $1 in New York City. They sell you a building for $1,
'Cause they
but
were
you
sold.
had to rehab it in a year, make it up to code and livable in a year. So there were so many squatters down there and all these abandoned buildings.
Okay.
So the landlord says, can you do carpentry? I lied. I said, yeah. He says, go over and join this crew. They're rehabbing an apartment. So I get over there. They found out in 3 seconds, but I could run, get cigarettes, get them bagels.
Okay.
I made them laugh. I hung out, bullshit with them, right?
Uh-huh.
So at the end of the day, they told him he's not a real carpenter, but he's a good guy to hang out with. He'll do anything he wants to do. So he says, can you clean out apartments? I go, absolutely. You know,
Sure.
I can do that.
Yeah.
Take a sweep, throw trash bags out.
Yeah.
Next morning, he says, meet these guys in front of this apartment building. I come out there, there's 3 young Italian guys. They're passing a bottle around, brown bag bottle. What are we doing? I said, we're clearing this building out. We're throwing squatters out. We go and kick in doors. We tell them, you gotta get your stuff out, leave. If they didn't, they were throwing bags and belongings out the windows.
Wow.
And throwing these guys out. We once went in with 2x4s into a shooting gallery, which is a bunch of heroin addicts hanging around, like and
yes.
chased them all out of there.
Wow.
And that's what we did every morning, right? Every day I'd show up and we do this, and I'd get $5 an hour under the table, and then I'd go hang out at the clubs. And I remember telling people that's what I was doing, and then finally, I started making a little money. And Harry and his partner split up down, and he asked me to book the club. So he started paying me $300 a month to book garbage, which solved all my financial problems, right?
Yeah.
So I was telling people about this, and everybody's like, yeah. And one night I'm on stage at Catch a Rising Star, and this guy goes, hey, Richie! And he stood up, and it was the guy, one of the guys. And he goes, I go, how you doing? He goes, I'm in now. I mean, he was a mobster guy, and I went off for 3 days with these guys. They let's go party. And I was back for 3 days. They were running around clubs, they'd walk in clubs, people would get out of their way. I mean, I was like, the first time I ever hung out with guys like that, I go, oh, these guys are, and, you know, they were doing a lot of drugs, and they were just walking into places, and people I could see passing them money and stuff. They were, they were like little mobsters. But that's what it was just clearing out apartments. And the guys, they would buy these apartments for $1, and they'd fix them up, and they'd be renting them out, like my apartment. Overton took my apartment, and Rooney took my apartment. When I moved in with Carol, they took that. I think apartment was like $1.75 a month
Yeah.
for this really nice apartment, 6th Street between A and B in New York City. Right. This was 1980, but
And that was scary in what they
no,
call
yeah, but it was all. But the whole place was,
streets.
but the house, building after building was being rehabbed.
Yeah.
Right, and people were moving back into the city. Our generation was moving back into the city, right? Because our parents left the city, and we all started moving back into the city. And the city was almost bankrupt in '76. You know that.
Yeah, that's right.
So some genius said, "Look, all these buildings all over the city are abandoned. We can get those habitable and start being income producers in the tax base. We could turn this around." And some genius said, "Sell the buildings for $1 and make them."
Wow.
And so a lot of mob guys were buying these buildings down there. And fixing them up.
Yeah.
Because my original, the building I lived in before they owned, right, and they hadn't fixed up yet. And I lived in the absolute basement of this building. So it was just rat infested. It wasn't even a real apartment, right? It had some walls up and it was really weird. My bed was right by the window in a sill, right? So you could see people walking up on the sidewalk,
Right, yeah.
right? And I had one of those gates, you know, you lock the
Sure.
gates. So I moved up there, and by the summer it was so hot, and it was hot down there, right? So I thought I'll open the gate up and get more air. And in the middle of the night, this guy's crawling across the base of my bed. You know, I wake up and this guy's crawling in, and I go, "Hey!" He goes, "Oh man, sorry, I thought it was my place," and backed out.
Wow.
Right? I mean, you know, like that's so quick. That's New York quick. It was my place. That's so I go into the window of my place all the time. And then they had rats. Rats, and my friend. He was a drummer and he tried to make the Springsteen band. He didn't make it. Max beat him out. You know, he was like the last guy who was jamming with Springsteen. He's disappointed. So he took my apartment in DC and I took his apartment. And he left a 22 pistol. So one night I was out working with Mar at, remember the Jade Fountain? Remember that place?
Yeah, I do.
Jade Fountain was one of those Jersey gigs.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend was in the apartment and she called for the apartment saying, she called Jade Fountain, and I got on the phone, she goes, "There are rats in the apartment." So by the time I came back, I was half drunk. I got the 22 and started shooting at the rats.
Wow.
Shooting at the rats. And she's screaming. And so somebody heard the gunshots and screaming, so later, we're at a bong there, you know, we're doing a bong and we're laughing, and I heard this on the door, New York police, and I thought, so when the neighbors goofing on me, I go, "You never take me alive, copper," I'm doing those kind of lines, right? And then the guy said, "New York police," and I open up and a guy comes in, one of those New York long hair policemen back in the 70s, remember those guys?
Okay.
They had the long hair. He comes in, I don't even think I do gun laws. I'm an ex-law student, and I don't realize New York had strict gun laws, and I'm here with an unregistered 22. I'm telling you what it is, I swear, he said, he takes it in, he goes, "So you're shooting at rats, these rats with this?" He says, "You need a bigger gun."
Wow.
And he takes the gun and leaves. And I
Lucky man.
I know I was lucky, and I told Rick Newman about that. And he gave me a bottle, said, "You take this down to the precinct and you give it to that officer." And he gave me a bottle of scotch or something.
Yeah. And this is the owner of Catch Rising Star.
Yeah, Catch Rising Star. Rick Newman
Yeah.
says, "Take this down there,
Good idea.
and you give him this." Oh, okay, yeah, good idea. And then they moved me out of that apartment over to the new one, which is, but I was late on rent all the time. I was only paying like $85 a month in the basement rat hole. But then they moved me. It was like $1.75 or something. And that's when I got behind in the rent. But yeah, that was my last straight job.
You guys paths kind of crossed early. Did you not
did.
really officially meet till?
Well,
New
I've
York,
had them
or-
introduce him. We don't remember this.
Right.
part.
But I'm saying,
Yeah.
do you
Oh,
guys
I don't.
remember kind of a?
Now there might
an
have been.
initial?
There was another guy who emceed sometimes. He was a black comedian named Andy.
Oh, I don't remember.
Sometimes
who the
he
MC
would.
was.
Sometimes he would. Like if I had a gig, I got a gig like opening up for somebody or something. That paid like $5 more. You know, right?
I dig it.
I was under the impression that I might have emceed and Larry Miller headline maybe, and there was a singer in between. Maybe I could be wrong.
There was a singer. They always had a singer.
Yeah,
Like just one or two songs.
yeah.
I gotta go take Jay Leno off stage.
All
Yeah.
right.
Fun.
So-
Gosh, it was great hanging out with you guys. Thanks. Jim.
Do ba 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 do.